Hello, I'm here with the author of Slender Notions, Nick. I know I'm going to get your last name wrong. Antona
Antonopoulos.
Antonopoulos.
Antonopoulos. Yep.
Antonopoulos. And you wrote a compelling book. I've read excerpts from it, but
Yep.
of a sort of a young writer mired in the suburbs, a heroin addiction.
Yep.
A bit passionate, a bit naive, a bit lost, right?
Yep. That's fair. Yep.
And also very Kerouacian. He loves Jack Kerouac.
Yes, exactly. Very cut from the Kerouac cloth, I would say, or wants to be from that mold.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, he's a character that's, has read Kerouac, Henry Miller, a lot of authors that I like. So there's some parallels there, but yeah, he's definitely cut from that cloth and admires those type of writers, but is kind of mired down in suburban Massachusetts and falls into drugs and is kind of just lost in trying to find meaning in his life.
Well, as Hemingway said, the broad lawns and narrow minds of the suburbs, right?
Yep, exactly.
Now, I remember my first experience with Kerouac. I was working a horrible job in Boston. It's probably in the late 70s. And I happened to go to Barnes & Noble, and I saw this cover that looked good, and it was On the Road. And I just picked it up, and I was so thrilled by it because I wanted to get out of the stifling conformist life I was in.
Yeah.
And then it led me to all this other stuff. Tell me about your first experience with Kerouac.
So my first experience with Kerouac happened in college.
Okay.
I was not much of a reader up until college, where I was originally a computer science major and then quickly learned that was the wrong path for me and switched to an English major. And a friend of mine had turned me on to Kerouac and told me I should read On the Road. So of course I started with On the Road and was just immediately hooked. I loved the writing style, the bohemian lifestyle that he depicts, all of it. And then I got further in and I read the Dharma Bums, Big Sur, Tristessa, all of them.
You got to be, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I got really hooked immediately. He, I would say, is the author that inspired me to write. There's been many since, but after reading On the Road, that's when I knew what I wanted to do with my life.
And I guess that was true for me. Although, when you come, I don't know how long you've been out of school or whatever, but, when you come back to it, especially when you're middle age, it doesn't have that same punch.
Yeah.
In a sense, you're a settled man now, you have kids and all that.
Yes.
And it's sort of like, you have to read it at a certain age to get, to really have the full impact.
You're absolutely right about that. Sometimes I think back on it and think it's almost like sophomore, I don't know why. It's almost like a little bit of an embarrassment to it when there shouldn't be. He's still a great writer, and I love him. But there's many authors that I also appreciate. But yeah, you're absolutely right. He is the type of author where you read it at that right point in your life, probably your early 20s.
Exactly.
When people are trying to find themselves, that's when he is most effective, I think, and certainly was the case in my life.
Yeah. Now, the Beasts, were looking for alternatives to the stifling conformity of the 50s. Mm-hmm. They went for Eastern religions, drugs, as your character, takes heroin, for, alternatives. Your character seeks a bomb through laughter. He meets another guy, and they have some scheme about laughter being the alternative.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah. So the idea for this idea from this character Cole comes up with what he calls the laughter challenge, and he was a middle-aged guy on the verge of a mental breakdown.
Similar to me.
Similar to all of us, I think. And he has a moment of clarity and it inspired me from a Henry Miller quote, which is, it's one thing to make the world laugh, it's quite another to make it happy.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another one where he says this, the man who could have made Hitler laugh may have saved 1 million lives, which is also, that's a bit overstated, but that idea of finding and really focusing on happiness is what struck me. And what if you could get an entire city to laugh together, and otherwise, lose their minds in free expression all together at once in a moment of, just communal bliss? And would it be just an ephemeral moment, or could there be some lasting impact on that? And that's kind of what I wanted to explore, was this, the idea of happiness is it's a thing that we all want, but we don't know how to grasp. And I feel like that's our main struggle in this life.
It's a legitimate, I mean, Norman Cousins, I don't know if you read it, came out with a book about how he had this sort of horrible neurological disease, and just continually watched Marx Brothers, Three Stooges, Abbott and Costello, and he came out of it. So, I mean, and
yeah,
as the Reader's Digest column was, laughter is the best medicine. They have these jokes and things like that.
Yeah,
so, go ahead.
Of course, that's such a cliche to say, but it's because it's true,
Right.
and in a lot of cases it's true. And it's more, to me, a focus. We all live, most of us live working lives, and we know deep down it's not the right way to live, but we do it anyway. And it's because a lot of people want to be taken seriously. And in order to do that, they think they need to get a, good job, good career, all these things. And all the while forgetting to actually live, and it's, that idea is whether or not happiness is something to be attained, or if it's just a fleeting thing that we can grasp once in a while, like in laughter. You know what I mean? The most moments, some best memories is when you're hanging out with friends, laughing together, things like that. So I wanted to take that and kind of kick it up a notch and see on a grand scale and explore that idea of what would happen if a lot of people stop taking themselves so seriously and really started to focus on simply being happy and compassionate and laughing together. And I know it sounds like a hippie-ish idea, and it is in a way, but it seems to make sense, but not in this world. It doesn't seem feasible.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't right now anyway.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a veteran of the Boston poetry scene, going back way back, and I've been to all the venues, and you sent me a passage at a venue unnamed. There's probably a mixture of venues that you've attended over the years.
Yeah.
And it's almost a sort of a feral aspect to it, which I agree with. There is a certain amount of that. Where did you go? Where did you started out writing poetry, or did you go to the poetry scenes? I imagine you must have.
So most of the poetry scenes that I went to was actually in university and in college.
Oh, okay.
I think I maybe went to a few poetry readings in the Boston area, but the one I describe in the book is just kind of a conglomeration of all the classes I've had with people reading poetry, and just kind of the phoniness that can surround it, but also the appreciation that these people are here to really express themselves. And there's no shame in that, whether it's, whether or not they have the best poetry or not. There's something to be said about someone that's willing to express themselves like that.
I think we all have an idea of what we want to be, and then when we start out as a poet or a writer, we put on a little, with a beret and all that stuff, and pose. Yeah. And then if we're really serious about it, that posture becomes permanent. And at first we're just trying things out like anything, and then eventually, if you keep doing it and realizing you have to do it, you become what you were just posturing at. You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly.
Now, I interviewed Benjamin Carson at Bridgewater. Did you take any courses with him? He was an English professor there. Benjamin Carson.
I don't think so. What did he teach?
I don't know the exact courses. I know he was on the English department there. But I mean, were there some influences in the English department at Bridgewater, where you got your degree?
At Bridgewater, there was a poetry teacher we had. I can't remember her name. I want to say Lisa. I like a Polish last name, but I like the way she held the class and was, we all came in with our poetry. And then there was also a man, I'm sorry, I can't remember the names, but a non-fictional class, but he allowed for creative nonfiction. And I really took that and ran with it. And a lot of people in the class, there was a lot of, freedom. It didn't have to be this thing or the other. But I think it was more, actually, I went to UMass Dartmouth too. And in those early years at Dartmouth was when I started to experiment with creative writing and really started to enjoy the English classes I was taking and analyzing literature and realizing that that's what I wanted to do. And like I said, that happened right around the same time I discovered Kerouac, all the other beat writers, and it just all came together. And I realized I wanted to be a writer.
So how do you support yourself as a writer? I mean, I know you're probably not making a living.
No, I'm not.
Right.
No, I work up in New Hampshire here for a town in the DPW department. So,
okay. Yeah.
Blue collar work, but pays the bills.
Okay.
But yeah,
and a lot of people have done that. I mean,
yeah.
I did it for years. I worked in a mental hospital for 36 years.
Really?
So to make the Daily Nut and write poetry and start my press. So
yeah.
And it gives you a lot of good. I mean, the mental hospital certainly gave me fodder. I imagine.
I'm sure.
I imagine you got yours too.
Yes, absolutely.
The New York Times often asks this question. I think it's a good question of their authors. Why should people read your book, in your opinion?
I think people should read my book, especially younger people, because it's a story I think a lot of people, like I said, especially younger people of my generation, I'm 32, can relate to. And we all seem to have this sort of emptiness in our life, and it has a lot to do with technology and everything's quick. And I even worry about writing in times like these. Who's going to read it? Is there a market for it? I refuse to believe there isn't a market for it, so I continue to write. Mm-hmm. But I think my book is a book that a lot of people will be able to relate to, especially people that feel a sense of isolation, anxiety, people that deal with addiction, and people that feel that just that something is missing. They're going through their lives, maybe going to college, going to work, but there's something else there that's not making them whole. And whatever it may be, that's something I wanted to explore in this book, is that pursuit of happiness that we all take, but none of us seem to know the right path to take. It's just, so I think I think a lot of people will be able to relate to the characters in it, mainly, especially younger people, with Leo, who is an addict, but either way, a kid who struggles with anxiety and depression and is just trying to find a foothold in the world. And he meets up with Cole, who has this idea, and that kind of gives him his own identity, and he kind of clings on to it, but then starts to realize it's not his. And it's just kind of that struggle to find ourselves and be ourselves, truly be ourselves. So I think a lot of people can relate to that.
The existential question, right?
Exactly.
Now, you did send me a passage from your book. Perhaps you can read that for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
1 second.
And by the way, who published your book?
I self-published on Amazon.
Okay. How was that experience?
It was good. It was actually happened at the very beginning of COVID, because I had finished the book a few months before COVID started. And then I was out of work for a few months, so it gave me the time to work. It was a lot of tedious as far as formatting. I had to do the cover design myself, all the little things like that. But
why didn't you try a small press? There are many of them.
So I tried reaching out to lots of agents. I did not try reaching out to too many publishing houses directly. And maybe that's a mistake of mine, but I'm certainly open to.
Yeah, there's a lot of small presses out there that publish books by emerging writers and things like that. So check that out. But nothing wrong with self-publishing. I've done it. A lot of people have done it. And so, all right, read us the passage.
Okay. Let's see. A young kid walks on stage with dark hair slicked back so tightly with gel that it crudely reflects the overhead lights above and his stereotype. Of course, when he turns to the side to reveal a tightly tied man bun, he does himself no favor either. Or maybe he does, I don't know. Maybe this audience sees that as a sign of credibility. In fact, that's probably the case. Christ, even the look of the artist has been meticulously imaged, packaged, and marketed to these kids. Maybe a slovenly, not that much older than these kids, dressed man has no credibility here. The kid on stage pulls out a skinny pair of black rimmed glasses with rectangular rims, and I almost spit out my drink. My word. The fray on the canvas shoes looked plucked from a lion's mane and unnaturally natural, like a messy hairdo. He reaches into his tight back pocket and pulls out the scrawled imagery. Rather than focus on him, I look around at the audience, studying their reaction. I see the drool dripping from their canines, ready to critically feast on the words spilling from this frail prey's mouth, in order to sate their vicious egos with bone-crushing bites of superiority, leaving only bloodstains on their sneering jowls. They all know they are better, and they want this kid to be the sacrificial lamb to prove it. He is merely up there to reassure their own artistic sensibilities. He clears his throat and takes one last look at the pernicious scowls waiting to rip his throat out for no other reason that they can and will. But then again, maybe I have them all wrong, for he is certainly the bravest one in the room at the moment, and maybe the crowd's collective drool stems from a hunger in the loins to coalesce that bravery, stroke it into a yearning tension that slowly galvanizes the pressure to blow like a volcano into fragments of creative thought. For the best art sprouts from the loins. The kid wastes no time and starts with a harsh ballad that undulates through the stale air, just above the crowd's head, and with the next consonant drops to the ground and shatters like a plume of feathers. The lonely reverberation of a solitary voice in a silent crowd is a strong sensation. Even if you were up there spitting gibberish, we would all stand as witnesses, waiting for the first formation of a familiar word or punchline to reassure our patience. He begins his poem with a question which seems rather odd, and it assaults our collective intelligence, as if we should quietly understand the answer. And the next line plunges into garbled imagery that provides no foundation to the previous question. I glance over at the bar and see a gorgeous young girl sitting there. Her eyes focused on the guy on stage, but her loins are screaming for the guy standing next to her. The guy standing next to her is half-assedly pretending to focus on the kid on stage, but in reality, he smells this girl's every hormone. The dim glow of indiscreet cell phones spot the room like a pathetic planetarium, while unconscious, dexterous thumbs do their work as the kid on stage desperately bludgeons us with uninspired imagery. The stench of unrequited desires seeps through the humidity in the air and betrays the true purpose of this gathering tonight. But this does not dissuade me. In fact, it encourages me, because it means that they are all permeable, susceptible, like horny dogs. We are all ready for a better way to live this life, and the sexual drive is latently fueling that sensation. Soon after these kids leave this establishment, half in the bag, they will stumble back into their dorms and apartments, ready to fall into dreamless sleep and wake into dreamless lives. The wheels of mundane normalcy never stop turning, and our routine is what greases the axle. The herd must keep stopping their feet in the same direction as we always have, and if one lags behind, they are left behind for the wolves to devour. There was once a time when the artist was the wolf, desperately nipping at the heels of society, trying to drag it down into the dirt to strip from it all the fear of otherness. But now the herd has stampeded all the stray wolves into oblivion, yet still runs together in fear of the possibility of another wolf waiting over the next bluff. The more I think about it, the more I'm realizing I'm becoming the artist I was born to be, but constantly suppressed. And I wish that everyone could experience this awakening. At least this poor kid on stage is trying, although he is missing the mark. He is trying to be the artist he imagines artists to be, rather than being the artist which is inherent in him. But give him credit, at least he is on the right path. With this, I begin to listen to his words as earnestly as possible. Never again will I mock or discourage an aspiring artist.
Thank you. Do you have a website?
I do. If you go on to, is it Book Life? The Publishers Weekly, I think it's Book Life. They have one there. On Amazon, I have an author profile on Amazon. On the author bio, they have their own separate pages. I'm on Facebook. Facebook, if you type in Slender Notions, you can find me. Twitter, same thing. So I'm on over social media and just have kind of author bios everywhere, but not my own website.
Are you going to have any virtual readings at all?
I don't know. I haven't thought about that.
Oh yeah,
I hadn't thought of it.
might be an idea.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. There's a lot
Yeah,
of venues around here. Timothy
excellent.
Gager actually has a Dyer series that for years has been highlighting poets and writers, and like yourself.
Yeah,
And now it's virtual, but if you look up his name, you could probably, you know.
yeah. You had him on recently, right?
I was until something happened. I had to take care of some medical business, so
Oh, okay. Okay.
I hope to have him back on again. I've had him on many times over the years. But thank you very much for joining us here on Poet to Poet, Writer to Writer.
Thank